How's it going? Welcome back. My name is Matthew, aka EZBOT, and today we're going to take a look at editing, arranging, and performing on the Electron ecosystem and other friends involved in that ecosystem. The reason why we're having this discussion is because I have a bunch of shows coming up. I told myself that I was going to take like a bit of a break from performing lots of shows just so I could work on music or just focus on other things in my life. There's a lot going on, and that has not happened. I have not followed through with that at all, and I am currently have like three or four shows booked out now for the next couple of months, and they're dope shows. One of them, I think, just went live today. The Facebook event post playing with Basic in Oregon and Portland. And then I'm just naming people that you might know. And then another one playing with Trash 80, the M8 developer, here in Seattle. Both these shows are in like a month or two. And so I'm excited to play these shows, but I'm like going through my music and like, I want everything to be really polished. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how do we use these boxes to prepare a live show? How do we get ready for live shows? And when you've developed some music, how do you go back and work on it? How do you prepare a set that you can play more than one time? So my music, let's jump over here really quick. Oh yeah, and by the way, yeah, this stream is brought to you by the lovely company Modbang. If you're not familiar with Modbang, Modbang makes stuff like this cool hat, these shirts, these template overlay stickers, among other cool things like patch cables, MIDI cables, all sorts of stuff. Modbang's a great spot. Check out modbang.com. Okay, anyway, so besides that, we're gonna have a listen to these tunes that I have, and I'm gonna go back in and we're gonna do some editing, some mixing and arranging, and talk about how do we go from part to part, song to song in our music, and exactly why I use something like the Octatrack. There are alternatives to the Octatrack for doing this stuff, for moving from part to part in your music. But when you have something like this and you know how to use it, and you know that there's multiple options to kind of like just using it as a transit station for I don't want to just say like from pattern to pattern or from song to song. It's more like from feeling to feeling, vibe to vibe, excitement to resolution. That's kind of what we do with the Octatrack. That's what we do with like a DJ mixer or some other performance effects you might use. A lot of people just use like an analog heat with a delay pedal or something. That works too. You can get through a show with that. And if you have something that has, good performance stuff, the Dig Attack 2 can do that on its own. An M8 can do it on its own. None of the stuff I mentioned can do it like the Octatrack can do it. That's a fact. This thing does a really great job of it. And I've designed tons of effects on the Octatrack, which you can pick up on Ko-fi or Patreon too. But we're gonna talk about that and go through this process of like what do I mean by editing, arranging, and performing, like I said in the title of the video. And what I mean by that is going back into your existing music and adjusting it. And then deciding how are we going to move from one part of the song to the next part of the song. I think the most complex part about working in the Electron ecosystem, working on a sequencer style ecosystem as opposed to a timeline style ecosystem like a DAW, or playing with your acoustic instruments. I consider like playing a live instrument the closest thing to like an Ableton or Bitwig live performance, because it's just like, it is up to you to actually make those changes, but like things are on this timeline that's just going to move forward. Like, where it's going. You're going to get there. That's what's going to happen. On these boxes, if you're not using an arranger, and when you start adding multiple Electron boxes together, using the arranger becomes a much more difficult process. You don't get all the features of the arranger across all the boxes with one box being the arranger. You get pattern changes, and that's it, really. That's really all you get if one of these boxes becomes an arranger. So we can't like put this on rails and just let it go which would be fine. There's nothing against it. I wish we could. That would be cool, because if we could, then we could just play with performance effects and like tweaking settings and just like let that go. But the truth is that we do have to mute and unmute patterns, or mute and unmute tracks in our patterns as we're performing, even if we have the arranger, when you start bringing in all these different units. Like imagine we interlock the M8 into this performance, right? And when I do play these shows, I am going to be playing tracks that I've written on the M8, tracks that I've written on Digitact, tracks that I've written more on Syntact, but probably have some Digitact in them. I'm going to be playing all this stuff. There's going to be a 303 there. All this stuff has to work together and be really seamless in a live performance, and I want it to be as, professional as I can possibly be. I want my professionalism to shine through. And I think that's where stuff like the Octatrack once again comes in and kind of like helps with that professional aspect of things. So I have some music in here, and I have a ton of music in here actually. And we're going to jump into a song that I started working on during a live stream, I don't know, a month or two ago. So it's been a while since I've revisited it with anyone else here other than myself. I've played some shows with it so far. It's like this trancey house, or it's like a trance. It's like more like a trance track. I don't want to say house track, but it's more like a trance track. And I want to discuss this with you. We're going to do sound demos and try out different ways of going from one part to the next part, but I want to discuss it hopefully with people that might be actively watching this stream. How should I, and how do we arrange it so that we can move from different parts of the song to the next part of the song using multiple boxes at once? The reason why this is particularly difficult and why this has got its own topic for the stream today is because of what I was saying with the arrangement problem, like the arranger problem. Like we don't have the arranger working on all the boxes at once because everything is living inside of this gridded system inside these boxes, right? It's very rigid and fixed. So when I start a pattern, it's going to repeat these little motifs on all these tracks. And we need to be able to move in to these different elements. But how do we get there and have it sound musical at the same time? Sorry if that wasn't entirely eloquent the way I was discussing that, because I was kind of like, how do I convey this feeling of everything being inside of these squares? Because that's really what it feels like. We're inside this grid, and we want it to feel like this smooth experience, and this rigid grid that lives inside these boxes doesn't really provide that for you. I think the closest thing I can think of that provides that for you, without talking about Octatrack specific live effect stuff, which really is what I use to make it seem like these things are moving so fluidly into each other, like you would expect on a timeline of your DAW or DAW or whatever you want to call it, is tails and delay tails and reverb tails. I feel like delay tails and reverb tails do a great job of making us feel like we're seamlessly moving into one part of a pattern or a project into another. This is something you can't do on all the machines. And on an Octatrack, if you put every song into its own project, you cannot do this seamlessly without something external looping. Because the Octatrack cuts the audio off when you change projects. There is a trick to it though. You can, if you loop a freeze delay, this will keep looping as you change your projects, because the delays are just completely independent somehow in the Electron world. I don't know how that really works, but that is the case. So you can just kind of sit in a frozen buffer and start changing stuff, queue up a new project that way. And we're going to kind of go through that process a little bit too, of how do we go from one project to another, because I do have music that lives in multiple projects. But anyhow, let's get into the meat and potatoes of things, and let's also say hello to folks that might be hanging out here in the chat. What's going on, everybody? Hi-Fi, what's up, Harry? Blake, what's up, Blake? Hysteric, GG. Greetings from Germany, what's going on? You're not napping yet? Nice work. Party people, hey. How's it going, CC88K? Nice to see you here. Very nice to see everybody here. It's Tuesday. It's the last Tuesday of the month. You know what that means? It's Modbang Tuesday. Modbang Tuesdays are a live hardware electronic music show that I put on every single last Tuesday of the month with often local performers, of course, but also people from Canada, Oregon, California have all flown up to play these shows. They're great shows, and they're really fun. They're completely free. Everyone's invited. They are 21 and up, unfortunately. Here is, this is what I meant to click on. This is what's coming up. We'll talk about, we'll go back to this again, but this is tonight's show on the right here. That's the Modbang, Mycorrhiza, Cynthiac, CM Barth, and Techfro all playing tonight. And then this is the other show that got recently shared at Substation. This is in August. You can see who's playing that show. And I do have another poster for another show in Portland, but it's not going to fit on the screen, so we'll do that in another stream. So much going on. Exciting, but it's a lot. It's a lot of work. So, okay. Let's jump back into this. Cool. All right. So I have this song. You heard a piece of it just now, and this is what we're going to talk. We're going to start with this song, maybe move on to some other ones, and get this discussion going. And I want to see where people's heads are at. This is I'm not trying to do a genre here. Like sometimes during these streams, I'm like, today we're going to work on this particular genre where I am trying to learn a genre and I'm doing it live. Like I'm letting you watch me try to learn something, like try to do something that's probably out of my comfort zone. I do that all the time on these streams. This song in particular, I don't consider that. So I'm not looking for feedback on make it more like trance, make it more like that. That's not the case. I don't want that feedback. You could be like, I don't like it. That's fine. But I'm not looking for any sort of guidance on how a song should go when it comes to this particular track. Some other tracks, sure. But this is more Matt music, EZBOT music. So when I was starting it, I was comparing it to some trance music that I do like to listen to. And that's where I was getting my inspiration from. But it's not necessarily what I'm trying to make in the end. Although I do think it is kind of what I accomplished here. So the pattern starts off very static, right? We have this this bass line that repeats. This is the opening part of the song. It's supposed to be, simple, easy to listen to, and kind of make you feel like you want change. That's the point of this pattern, is to introduce the song and give you a feeling of, please give me something new, which is a good feeling because that's anticipation. That's what anticipation feels like. You want resolution. And this pattern provides that. So when I start the song up, I'm not going to start with all these elements at the same time, right? So what do? I'm taking out the kick. I'm taking out the hats. Let's take out the bass line. I do need to mention I'm already getting used to the Dig-Attack 2's muscle memory. And it's so different here. I'm using my Dig-Attack more than my Syntax. So now I'm actually struggling with my muscle memory on the Syntax. This is so whack that Electron's done this to me. I'll never forgive them for this. Okay, anyway. Let's mute the bass. It's over here. I want to mention on this bass line, we have a percussive part of the bass. And we have a sub bass. So they're doing the same pattern, playing the same notes, but one of them is a sub oscillator and one of them is a top line of the bass. So here's without the sub. And here's with the sub. I don't know, maybe you can't hear that over your phone or laptop or whatever you're using. Actually might need to bump that up a little bit. Real bassy now. If I bump something up, so this is the meat and potatoes of what I'm trying to get at during this live stream. Going through music and adjusting it to fit in the right mix. I have my volume faders on both machines set at the same position. They're both at 12 o'clock, just so I can easily get them there. This one looks like maybe it's just the camera perspective. Both of them are at 12 o'clock so that everything can be at unity. And what's cool on the Dig-Attack 2 now is that there's actually, if you go into your mod section, you adjust this, it says pattern volume, which I love. So we can actually bring pattern volumes down, if that's something you didn't know you could do, so that you can have all your pattern volumes match if you're using a tic tac too. But yeah, this is the meat and potatoes. We need to make these volumes all match. Now, if I have a sub bass here and I adjust the sub bass here, and it's the same sound design across the song, which it is for the most part, I'm using the same bass for like the whole song. I now need to adjust the sub bass across all the patterns in this song. And the fastest way to do this is select the track, hold track, select the track, hit copy so it copies the track sound, and now we just jump to the next track, paste it, jump to the next track, paste it, and jump to the next track, and paste it, and go back. All right, now we have increased the sub bass across all the tracks. Maybe I brought it up too much. I brought it up a lot. I mean, I'm not sure. These are mastering headphones with extended bass range, so they do a really good job of showing me actually how the bass actually is. Maybe a better job than my kind of expensive large Mackie speakers that I have, because I don't have a sub in here, but they have great low end. These headphones have even better low end. This is the kind of stuff that I am open to commenting with people if they're like, no, I feel like the sub bass was too loud. That's the kind of stuff that you can absolutely share your opinion with me on. I really don't mind. Okay, so when I start this track, I don't want to have any percussion going or bass. I was thinking that this is how the track would start, just with this like piano type sound. And the ambient effects that I have in the background. I think this is a decent way to like start this off. I'm still rocking the Kroger because it's so cheap. And I've become cheap. They're called Shure 1540s, I believe, without looking at them. Yep, Shure 1540. Okay, that's what the headphones are called that I'm using. They're like around 500 USD, I think. Totally worth the money, honestly. Huge upgrade to my mixing for my hardware. Huge upgrade. Highly recommend these headphones. All right, let's get this out of here. Okay, so if this is my intro to my track, where does it go from here and how do I get there? Do I just unmute the sounds? Do I slowly fade them in? What do I do? Do I use a performance effect to bring them in? I could. So if I use like a performance effect, we want something that creates like a buildup, maybe? Like I could have used that as a way to bring it up. Or I could use this high pass with delay. And go into the kick and the bass. That sounded kind of cool as I faded through the filter down. Faded the filter down. I think that sounded cool. It's not exactly what I was thinking. I think I maybe brought the sub bass up too much. The high pass filter sounds really good on that. Really like that. Let's see. Let's try it again. Maybe if the song actually... What if the song actually starts like this? Fully high pass filtered. And we like... Take a look at track 1's volume. 105. We take this down. Bring this in. Bring our bass line in now. We have a high pass bass line. Start bringing this kick in. Here we go. That's actually pretty smooth. That's pretty smooth. Now the question is, can I remember how to do that when I'm playing live? Because that's when everything goes out the window and you're just like, what was I gonna do? No idea. Suddenly you're freaking out. I don't care how many times I've played live. Every time I play live, I'm like, what was I gonna do? Okay. Like I said, this is that intro pattern. I need to maybe bring in more than one element at a time. We don't want this pattern to go on too long. It's too much anticipation isn't good either. Alright, this is about when I would want to go to this next pattern. Okay, so here we go. Now let's talk about arrangement. Alright, so right here we were trying to figure out, like, how do we get to this position in the song? This is like most elements unmuted. When I go to this next pattern, I don't want to go right into all of my elements. I had all this stuff unmuted already. I don't want to have that be the case. So let's go back. Let's get this stuff out of here. This little arpeggio on the syntax, which sounds freaking awesome. This is the size swarm machine. This syntax swarm machine is so good, and to me, it's like the closest thing to having the analog oscillator in the digital realm on the syntax. It sounds quite analog when you get it going right. Like, listen to this. It starts sounding a little digital at the end there, but like that filter sweep on it sounds really good. So I was thinking, one of the things I could do is have all the music come in, and then I could just like ease it all off, so then where we would be at the end would be like bass line out, this arpeggiated sequence going, and we'd find our way in here with all this stuff unmuted. So we would like bring the pattern down to this moment. And it would transition itself into this part. And then use like a build up here. I think I brought up the sub bass too much. Let's fix that. Seems good right there. So we've made it over to this part of the song. I don't know, thoughts? Let's talk about this for a second. So one of the ideas is that we bring all these elements down on pattern 1 to this so that we can transition. Maybe we do just transition right into this. So we could go from here. that sounds good. I meant to get this element in there. So that would have been like this. 13? Yeah, it's that downbeat that I wanted. So at this point we could really start playing with stuff. If only we had perform kit on the syntax. Wouldn't that be sweet? Not gonna happen though, but be so sick. We'll go function yes for now. This is the big build up here. Should have got that downbeat again. So I want to do that build up again. I think if this is how it went at a live show, I wouldn't be disappointed. It wouldn't be perfect, but I wouldn't be like, that sucked. Okay, one thing I gotta mention is that ARP line is not supposed to be that loud. I don't, like... Game 14. That explains it. I was like, what? So loud. Okay, cool. My compressor was... I'd clearly bumped some encoders. So this is supposed to be nice and loud. Vocals should be really present. supposed to build up and kind of like, okay, let's go back to this. Let's go back to this build up here. So in the build up, it's supposed to have these vocals. And this like goes out of tune on purpose, but I kind of like don't like it now. Okay, so what it's supposed to be is this vocal line here. I'm saying caught me in a lie. Fun topic, right? And what I did for this vocal is I recorded myself singing, you know, caught me in a lie, whatever, into my, you know, WA19 little mic that I love here by Warm Audio. And then I time stretched the vocal on this track and repitched it an octave down, and you get... Isn't that cool? I have like too much bit reduction, I think. Let's keep it like that. That's nice. Stuff like this is like, I should just record these little snips of like these random moments, because that reverb echo with the repeating drums right here, this sounds awesome. Like you could build a whole song around this. I love that. You'll never hear it again if I don't record it. So I guess I can record it. Let's do it. We're gonna record it into the Octatrack. The way I have the recording buffer set up, the flex track set up on this, is that I can record post effects anytime I want. It's always post effects, summing of the post effects of these two boxes. Cool. So now I got that audio. I can actually transition over to it. I could create a breakdown with this if I wanted. I love that. Let's save that. Let's save that. Let's save it, save it, save it. Okay. Function, rec 3. Save this recording. Let's call it lie loop. Lie loop. We can use this to make a song later. All right. No, don't assign it to anything. Okay, so how do we... go from this... that would work. High pass filter sweep with some delay. I still have plenty of energy I can add to this after I get to this pattern. I
That one's a high energy sound. Save that one. This isn't really a song that benefits from beat repeats all that much, but we can hear how it sounds. That one. I think taking an element out is actually as impactful as adding another element to make things big. Like removing the vocals is actually quite impactful. Definitely could have made that be a bigger movement. So like if this is where I end up at the end of this pattern to transition to the crescendo, the end of the whole song, I think I really need to kind of just build up a bit more. How do I do that? That might work. You know what? This kind of brings up a cool thing that we haven't talked about too much. Is portamento on Dig-Attack 2 is a thing now. As you can hear in this vocal line, if you pay attention to the vocals, you'll see that I have portamento turned on and my portamento timing up pretty high, 83. But it sounds awesome. And I only have it doing portamento on, well, no, I do have it doing it on all the tricks. It sounds really cool on vocals. Yeah, right there. That sounds so cool on a sampler. I'm so glad we have portamento on Dig-Attack 2. But you can use that with all of your like synthesizer effects on here too. You can do 303s on here pretty well now because of the portamento. That effect turned out really loud. It's because the very tail end of the effect. GPT lyrics. I don't know about that. Keep the art pumping. What's up, Cook Sonia? Zbot? Hey, Theramina. Salutations. Okay. The portamento does sound great, doesn't it? It's a snail, I guess. Mystified snail visited us today. Oh, that is cute. Yeah, let's carry on to this topic of revisiting your music. So one of the things I really like to do, one of the things I recommend to people often, because I teach this stuff privately, so if you're interested in lessons, I'm right here. I'm available. If you want to learn how to use these boxes and set all this stuff up and learn how to write music like this, I guess I can show you how I write music, but I can show you how to use these boxes very well. All the details. Anything you want, I got you. But anyway, going back to what we're doing here. I recommend this all the time in lessons and in general to just everybody that I meet because this is all I talk about, to write your music in one project. I've brought that up so many times during these streams. And the reason why it's so important is what we're doing right now. I am able to have a fresh ear on all of my songs from kind of a helicopter perspective, so to speak. Like I can go in and listen to every single pattern in my set, adjust the volumes, adjust the timbre, and kind of pick out how I want my set to go. I have more music available to me in these boxes, in these projects, because I keep as much work as I can in a single project. When the project fills, I go to the next one. But because I have so much music now in singular projects, I'm able to design sets based on my mood, essentially, or based on a new track that I wrote. Maybe I write a new track and I'm like, this track works really well with this song, this song, this song, and this song, but it doesn't work that well with this song, and this song. So I exclude them from this new set that I play, and I get to design that because it's all in the same project. Otherwise, you're stuck booting up all these different projects with, for one, is a time suck. Totally not fun to do. Just sucks to do. But also, you lose that fresh perspective of jumping from pattern to pattern to pattern instantaneously and hearing this versus this versus this. That stuff's really important, I think, when you're designing a live set and arranging how your set's going to be. It also gives you the opportunity to dive back into the machines and start doing some editing on every element. Like what we did at the beginning of the stream. We went in and started adjusting the sub bass, which I've had to do 2 times now. And I'll probably do a third or fourth, fifth time by the end of the day. This is the kind of stuff that you can do when you write all your music in the same project and try and fill your projects up, so that when you do these project changes, it's like, you've already gotten through a lot of music already. And that can be really useful, I think. So the project change aspect, going from pattern to pattern and project to project, is a huge leap when it comes to live hardware. Loading projects is a huge leap. My buddy Drew, Dan Crystal, he does his own thing, and it's way more complex than I've seen anyone else do. But it's similar to what I do on the Octatrack. He just does it in a much harder way because he doesn't use an Octatrack. And he uses a boss looper. He uses a boss looper, and then he samples the live input of his audio, beat matches it by tap tempoing it. Then he hits the stop button and the play button at the same time on the boss looper. It's at Unity, so you can't really hear it. But if he was off by just half a second, you would hear a blip of silence in between his transition. He also had to time the loops to be perfect with his music because it's not synced over MIDI. Like, that's crazy. But that's how he goes from project to project. That's how difficult it can be to go from project to project using your boxes, using different ecosystems. Try mixing a Korg product in with this. Try mixing a Roland product or a Pioneer Torres sampler or the M8 or your modular system, all that stuff. When you start integrating it into different ecosystems, you start running into all sorts of potential issues like loading projects, tempo syncing. Can the Octatrack or Dictact or Syntax tell an M8 to move from row to row to row? The answer is yes, but how do you do that? How do you set that up? You have to learn how to do that, and then you have to integrate that into your projects to have them work together seamlessly like you expect with the other Electron boxes. And this is part of the reason why I myself end up staying in particular ecosystems
that are very similar to each other. That's why I vibe with something like the M8 so well. The M8 and the Electron ecosystems, they're not very far apart. The M8, or like the Electron ecosystem and the Polygon tracker ecosystem, they're not that far apart. They're a little further apart than the M8 and the tracker, but they're not that far apart. I'm not sure how to, I need to learn more about the Polygon Tracker Plus, because it's quite the upgrade, and I need to figure out how to have it move in sync with all of my patterns on my Electron ecosystem. Otherwise, I can't integrate it into my workflow. I'd have to just write music on it and just keep it separate and transition from this set of music to that set of music. And that also plays into your arrangement of your music. So, for instance, speaking of this topic entirely of arranging your music with different boxes in your ecosystem, how do I transition from an M8 song that's made just on the M8 to an Electron song? Do I need to have MIDI sync? Probably don't really need to have MIDI sync, but it would be useful to have my transition be at the same tempo. It would be useful for my transition to be in the same key. It would be useful for my transition to be in a relative key. All of these things are useful for moving from pattern to pattern, part to part, music device to music device. But I would say what I would do in this case is I would destroy my audio. So there's some options with this. Destroying your audio, in my opinion, is a great way to move from song to song or pattern to pattern. It has a real sense of a song ending and gives you an opportunity to start something completely new that's so completely off topic, so to speak, from the rest of the music you were writing. For instance, we're in this track. Say we want to go to this more techno-inspired, this bouncy techno track, which has got some really sharp highs. Like, I want to soften this track up a little bit. But if we want to go from this to this, 140, 130, completely different keys. I could destroy the audio. So if I go into my party section on my Octatrack Performance Template, there's other effects that could kind of mimic this same idea. I'll make sure this is like its maximum clarity for everybody. I could destroy this audio here. Here's how we could destroy audio. If I do this, and then we switch to this pattern, that works. We completely left an experience and went to a new experience. This totally works, right? Not easily done without something like this. This is my Performance Mixer 3.0 template that I have for the Octatrack. Lets you do stuff like this. That's why I built it. I designed it so I could navigate my music. But we couldn't do that. Like, to go from, let's try it again. If we use like a beat repeat, have to stop the clock. That doesn't work. We could just loop it like this and cue it up. Tempo won't work. That didn't work. You could try a build-up. This build-up sounds sick. And then just bring it right into the build-up. That feels off. I do think that destroying the audio, like completely taking it away from being musical in any way, worked the best. To go from one completely different genre, different atmosphere, different vibe, different tempo, different key to another one, easily done by just corrupting the audio to the maximum. You can do this in other ways too. You could resample, like we could go into that resample that we did, which is in this same music from this. There we go. So we could destroy this audio. I mean, that kind of worked too, because it was just like fun and an audience really enjoys stuff like that. What was that? Now we have the rate locked in. That's a good idea. I should lock the rates on all of them. That'll be an update. Okay, let's move on to another arrangement topic. How do we get to a full-on breakdown? Like, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go from we got this techno vibe, right? It's like this, you know, it's a housey, dancey thing. We got 303. Super fun to play with. That's why I bring the 303. It's so sharp and tight. It's a synth I know I can just, it's always going to be in the same, it's always going to have the same sound every time. I'm always going to be able to reach for it and enjoy the process in a live setting. That's 303 is great for that. I can't even screw it up. It's so good. Okay, but how do we go from something like this to... This is all the same song, even though it kind of sounds like two different songs, but they all have the same elements. It's like all the same DNA. This is the breakdown of the track. What I've been doing is this. Building up. We'll start this in the next turnaround with an 8-bar big build-up. This works. Drop, right? This is a real drop using just hardware. This is hard to do in hardware, unless it's like an M8. You can do it on the M8, no problem, but these boxes is not as easy. It's a lot of programming. This way I can improvise these drops anytime I want, because I'm doing it on the Octatrack. And now... I always love this section of the song.
Now we can do this cool stuff on Dig-Attack. Cue up the mutes. Here we go. Switch this out right here. Now we do the build up again. And this is how I go through this song. This is what I've been doing. Wrong effect. Also, when I get to this section, which I love this lead, I want to switch these leads out. And they're on two different machines. It's hard to remember where to go. One thing I have to do that I haven't done yet, because it's a big part of the Electron workflow, is integrate the new sequencer effects. There's so many new things that the Dig-Attack 2 can do, and this is where I do all my drum stuff, so that's like where it really shines. With like last command, there's a new trig command. We're gonna do a whole, I'm gonna record a video on this because I need to like really study this and talk about it deeply, but the Dig-Attack 2's completely revamped the Electron sequencer. It's like it's almost a new sequencer with how much stuff it can do now. Completely overhauled the Electron sequencer. You can't do any of the stuff Dig-Attack 2 can do on any other Electron box. It just doesn't exist. It's only in the Mark II Digi line, which only has one box in it right now, right? Hopefully Digatone 2 soon. As soon as possible, please. Please. But yeah, now we can do a fill effects, a conditional trig, and a probability effect on every single step independently. Before, and on Dig-Attack and 1, Syntact, and Digatone, you can only do one of those per step. You can pick one. Do I want to have a fill condition? Okay. Do I want it to be one of two? Okay. Do I want a trig condition or a percentage chance of this step triggering? You had to choose just one of those conditions. Now we have 3 conditions to choose from on top of each other. They work together. You can have a fill that only works on 2 of 2. That maybe one of the steps is removed from your fill condition, or it switches the trigger with a different trigger from a different step that maybe played longer than the other one, so it fills the same space as each other. There's all these tricks now we can do with these different conditions that didn't exist. So I haven't even gone in and edited my music. I need to go in and now edit all of my songs because I have these new superpowers that didn't exist. The last command is so special, so powerful. Last command now is one of these conditions that we have. We have to do it on a per trigger basis. I'll show you by holding this down. But the last command right here doesn't trigger until you trigger your following sequence. So once I go like this, my last command would have gone into play. As soon as that track is so sharp, it's so high end. I need to bring that down. I don't know, that part bothers me. But as soon as you queue up the next pattern, it will
fulfill the last command. It'll trigger all the last commands, whether they're last don't plays or last do plays. That's what the last command does. So we don't have to hold the page button down now to trigger a fill to go into the next pattern. We can actually build that into the pattern change so that it always consistently gives us the exact same fill when we go into the pattern, just like you want it to, because we do want it to. Although there are some exceptions to the rule there. It's not a rule, but some exceptions to that idea is that it is also fun to just trigger with the page button to move into the next pattern, because maybe you're kind of trying to improvise when that fill came in or what that fill was doing by triggering it at different times. That's one of the advantages there. But having that last command, like maybe remove some elements as you move to the next pattern, like having it mute all the kicks for me or something as I'm going to the next pattern, that sounds really useful. In fact, you know how I was trying to go like this, and bring all of these triggers out as I was moving, or all these tracks out as I was moving to the next pattern? I could actually give last don't play commands to all the triggers. Mind you, I would have to go in and edit like, 100 plus trigs to do that. Maybe less, actually. Maybe that's too much to say, but I'd have to go in and edit those triggers. I could have it just remove the elements I don't want to play as I'm moving to the next pattern so that my build-up is exactly how I need it to be when I use my Octatrack Performance Templates. It's actually not a bad idea, and it would require a lot of programming, but I do have time. I'm not playing for another month or so, maybe a little bit longer, before my next gig. Right? It's June. I'm playing in July. Never mind. Yeah, I'm playing in a month. A little less than a month. Okay. Chamber, what's up? One day Matthew will make me buy a Syntact, although I feel no need for it with Rhythm, Digatone, and maybe soon Digitact at my disposal. Digitact 2. Yeah, everybody should just get a Digitact 2. James the Lemonade Maker. Sidechain the ish out of that siren. That's a cool idea. It sounds so big, but it is really just like, it's got the low end there. There's like this section in between the low and the highs. Like this song has all of it. It's got the whole spectrum. It's very full. Like it feels good. It's so warm, biting. All the spectrums there. This song's got like this EQ. It's like, to me, I see the shape being like, I don't know if you can see that. If you could draw out that EQ in your head, flat line. I'm going. It's kind of like when I hear music, I see the EQs. I see the line. Do you know what I mean? This one, I see this like very, very smooth. Sharp bell at the end of my high spectrum, high mids. How do I adjust that? Not easily done. We do have EQs on Digitact 2, and most of the sounds that are creating that are coming from my Digitact. I like that. Sounds like I'm playing, 16th notes on a bass with like the pickup set to the bridge. But yeah, I like that one, so I don't want to adjust that. Maybe I'll just have the sidechain ignore the high end. I mean, the compressor ignore the high end. But I'm doing a little bit of parallel. I noticed it sounded a little bit better when I took the compressor off. Yeah, actually sounds a lot better. This is what the sidechain filter is good for. Copy this setting. Function, mod, lets you select the page. You can let go now, hit copy.
Now we have to go to these other patterns. Do the same thing and just paste it. Actually helped a lot. It was the compressors. That was the problem. Too much makeup change. Much better. So much better. Where's my compressor? Compressors. What do they do? Like, oh my god. If you don't learn how to use a compressor, right, you really just shoot yourself in the foot in so many situations. You're just like, what's happening? I gotta change all the EQs. I'm changing all these volumes. Turns out the compressor is compressing my high end too much. It's bringing the highs out too much. If I EQ everything and bring the volumes down, it'll have a similar result, but it was all just fixed by adjusting the sidechain filter on my compressor to ignoring my high end and focusing more on the low mids, which is what I wanted it to do. Right? I have that compressor already ignoring my kick, so it's not compressing the kick anyway. We have a master bus compression here. I'm trying to marry these elements inside the dig attack together with the compressor. Okay, so I just want to bring this back to everyone's attention. The point of this stream, when I said in the title and on the thumbnail for the stream, was editing, arranging, and performing. This is what I mean. We're going into our music. We're looking at all our existing music that we plan to play a show with. We're taking fresh ears to our existing music because we've been writing new music, so our ears are fresh to our old music because we're in the stage of writing new music. We go back in to our existing music, we listen to it. What does it need? Does it need EQing? Are the volumes good? Is the transition between this pattern to this pattern, does it make sense? Do I have it figured out? Have I even figured it out yet? Is there new elements that maybe we can add to the music that wasn't there before? Did I leave the song kind of unfinished and move on to a new song, and now I need to go back and work on it, finish it out, have it be more impactful, more exciting for a live performance? That's the kind of stuff what I mean by editing and arranging. Performing is kind of like you go in, edit, arrange, perform, and you do this loop over and over again, all the way up until you play the show. Like, that's how it works. You just do this, and then you go perform. So it's like edit, arrange, perform, edit, arrange, perform, perform. Edit, arrange, perform, edit, arrange, perform. And in between all of this stuff, you're writing new music. I guess the editing function kind of plays into that role as well. But this is what I do. This is what my life is about currently, is this process, is writing new music and coming up with new ideas. It's not always about, like, for me, releasing new music or anything like that. In fact, I do very little of that. I'm more excited about this actual process than I am like having somebody listen to EZBOT in their car while they're driving. And I mean, that sounds awesome. But to me, the reason why I got into hardware is because I wanted to have fun making music again, and I don't have my band to play with anymore. You know what I mean? And I also can't handle that experience anymore physically. My body can no longer handle it because my ears are cooked. So to like go play, put my Fender amp that I have, my tube amp, which is so freaking loud, I can't turn it up at all. My distortion pedals, which is what I like to use when I'm playing guitar. I like to make loud rock music. That's what I like to play. And have a drummer wailing on the drum kit. Like, I can't enjoy that experience anymore. That part of my life is over. I have to kind of just accept that I have to move on to this new stuff where I am in full control of all the elements and how I experience them. This has given that to me. I still get to have that in my life, which is awesome, and I love it. It's also let me be a drummer instead of a guitar singer, which is what I was before. It's let me be a drummer. It's let me be more of a bass player, which I like to play bass as I'm a guitar player, but I get to do all these things now. It's let me be an effects developer. It's let me communicate with a huge group of other musicians across the world. Not something I was able to do when I was playing rock music with my band in Seattle. Like, there's 1,000 of us. 1,000 trillion. That's like what Seattle did. You know what I mean? That was a little bit of a side quest discussion. Side quest is what my wife always says whenever I go on a tangent. But it's relevant. Okay, back to the tracks. Bye, Blake. Still have the twin monsters. Yeah, Rhythm and A4 missing the ST some days. You know, I've been thinking about that, actually. You know what I'm not seeing many people do? Because Electron did this thing, I don't know, it must have been financial, probably for financial reasons, which is a fair reason to do anything for any company. People got to pay their bills, they got to pay mortgages, do stuff. But they released the Dig Attack 2. It's missing some stuff, in my opinion. It's missing global effects mix from Dig Attack 1. It's got some zero crossing issues. Like, it's not doing zero crossing detection because they haven't gotten that implemented. It's got a couple bugs in it. Some stuff that I'm not used to Electron releasing with bugs. I'm used to it being very unbuggy. So maybe it was released maybe a little early. I have no idea. I'm just speculating on why a company would release something. And what they did before this was release the firmware update to the Rhythm Mark 1. And that was such a glorious update. It was so good. Such a good update. And then shortly afterwards, we get this. I mean, a couple of months later, but like within a year's period, we get this huge new Electron box. Like, this is like, it revamped the sequencer. It's such a big deal. So I feel like I haven't gotten to explore and enjoy my Rhythm because the hype on Dig Attack 2 is so much bigger for me than the update on the Rhythm. But the update on the Rhythm was so glorious and lovely. The side chip and man, so good. I don't even remember all the stuff they did. What did they do again? Can you remind me? We did a stream on it. We went through every little feature, but if somebody knows off the top of their head, I'd be interested in someone reminding me all the dope stuff. MOAR compression. I do want to remind people that we are not sponsored by any drinks yet. We haven't gotten a sponsorship. And I don't want this one. I don't want a Kroger sponsorship, but I do want LaCroix or Polar. I'm open to a Polar sponsorship. This channel is open to being sponsored by LaCroix or Polar because I like their flavors a lot. This one, for some reason, goes flat very quickly. Their bubbles aren't as good. I don't know how that works. Maybe that's in my head, but... Udoyo thing. What about the analog heat plus effects? Have you been using it? We're using it right now. We're always using it. All of the music is being run into the analog heat plus effects. And what's happening on the analog heat plus effects is a little bit of saturation. I'm doing the stupid stuff that we all do with analog heat plus effects. It's like $1,000 unit, and I'm putting a little bit of saturation on it because it does sound nice. It does. And then I'm also using the bass to mono, which is probably the coolest thing about the plus effects to me. And that adds, that just sums all of my low end. Because if I add any chorus, like say on the Dig Attack, I have some chorus on something and it's accentuating a lower frequency, that sounds bad. Like this low subby sound like bouncing around in the stereo field. I'm like, no way, get that out of here. So bass to mono on heat plus effects, very helpful for that. Would I pay? I did buy it. Electron didn't send it to me or anything. I didn't get it gifted. I spent the money on the heat plus effects just for the saturation in that because I'm a collector of Electron stuff. You know, what am I going to do? Side chip, BD acoustic. That is such a good reminder. So side chip, awesome. Love that one. Analog arpeggio synth, really cool. I haven't even gotten to play with it enough to like realize its cool functionality. I know that we could use it to make chord arpeggiations if you slow it down, which is a really fun idea, and I did play with that a little bit. But that BD acoustic in the Rhythm Mark 1 and Mark 2. I have a Rhythm Mark 1. I don't know if I'd shell out the money for Mark 2. I'm so in love with the squares and rectangles. I don't like the shape of my Analog 4 Mark 2. or the shape of the Rhythm Mark II. I just don't like it. But it's a way better device than the Mark 1. But the Mark 1's so big. I just love my Mark 1. You know. But that beady acoustic, man, that is so good. It really does have an acoustic kick sound. Quite impressive. Quite impressive. Smooth parameter locking. Smooth parameter locking. I don't remember that. Smooth parameter locking? I know the Euclidean sequencer because that made it into Dig Attack too, which is a smart move. They should add it to all the boxes. Like, probably isn't that much code. But what's smooth parameter locking? I don't remember. I'm not remembering. You remind me what that means, Ozan? What you mean by that? The beady acoustic sounds like a 707. I like the 707. It's not the prettiest of the Roland old boxes. I mean, it's just a plastic. I mean, those. It's so funny about like 707s, 808s, 909s, right? They're so, and 303s. They're so valuable now. They're so expensive. 707s aren't that expensive. You can find a used 707 for like probably like $500, 500 to $1,000. It's still a lot considering how much it probably was new. But a 303 and a 909 are like, and an 808, like an OG one, like forget it. Like thousands of dollars. 707, not so much. That's kind of under the radar, I guess. But they're so cheap. They're plastic junk. Like for real. Like they're not junk. Like forgive me. I want them. I do. I really do. I just know I wouldn't pay for that unless I was just rolling in cash. But they are just like, so like this right here. This is a EZBOT TT303 OG version, right? This is their V1 version. This is a nearly perfect replica of the original Roland 303, right? Mikey 303 was telling me that it has a stronger accent circuit. I believe Mikey, so that's surely true, as far as I'm concerned, in my life. And it sounds, I compared it to the sound of my TB03 by Roland, which is using their ACB, analog circuit behavior technology, which they like mapped the circuits and they like rebuilt the circuits digitally instead of trying to like EQ the sound to have it sound the same as the OG. When they tried to like literally redo it in a digital thing, they spent a lot of money on this thing. Anyway, so they did that so that they could like emulate all of their analog gear, Roland did, and have it be affordable, put into little chips and add new features and stuff, add effects and polyphony to stuff that didn't originally have polyphony, like the SH-101, for instance. Didn't have polyphony. Then it has 4 voices of polyphony in the SH-01A or whatever. So anyhow, those newer boutiques this has a really nice build quality. I do want to say this is nicer than the OG 303. I've touched and used an OG 303, and the build quality of the OG 303 is not as good as this. This is, a lot newer, but it still is very plastic. Everything's very plastic. The encoders are plastic, all that, because they're emulating the original stuff. The original stuff was meant to be cheap, and the original 303 was meant to actually replace a bass guitar, not do techno or house or acid house or any of that kind of stuff. It's supposed to be a bass guitar. I mean, you probably already know this if you're addicted to hardware like I am. But yeah, anyway, just getting sidetracked, side quested again. Once again, I do enjoy a good side quest. Did we get okay? Here, back to Cooksonia is answering the question about the smooth parameter locking in the Rhythm 1.70 update. When you parameter lock, you can slew the values between steps. In the other boxes, the p-locks are step. Why am I not remembering that? It's such a big deal, and I'm not remembering. Wait, I did go over that. I did discuss this during the stream. I just am not. Anyway, where is that located on the Rhythm? Is that like a new parameter? Why don't we have that in the Dig Attack 2? Why don't I have slewed parameters in the Dig Attack 2? Why don't I have it on all the other boxes if it just made it into the Rhythm Mark 1? Why is it not in my Octatrack? I have to use slide triggers? Slide triggers are so sucky. Like, they're great. That I'm glad that we have them, but they suck. Like, they, you put them on your main sequence, and it does the slides to every single trigger that that it's available to. Like, that sucks. I'd rather have smooth. I don't know. I want that on all the boxes. I really hope they implement that in DT2. It would be such a game changer. It would. Well, it would. It really would. You know what it would really help with? It would help with amplitude envelopes too, and filter envelopes moving from trigger to trigger. So I've been doing these tutorials lately with people during lessons, and I've been teaching a lot of Dig Attack 2, and I teach a lot of like technique. Like I might not sit there and be like, this is how you make a banger in techno, but I'll be like, here's how you do techno sound design. Here's how you do a rolling hi-hat. Here's how you do a rumble bass. Here's how you do it. Like, I'll teach these concepts. You do whatever you want with that. Because techno's like not, I'm not like a techno expert or anything, but I can show you how to make rumble bass. I know the technique. And I've been teaching this rumble bass technique. It's my own rumble bass technique. You can watch how to do it in the last live stream that I did. And it, for me, I'll show it to you really quick. I just want to point this out. Let's get some of these sounds out really quick so you can just hear the rumble. You can hear that rumble happening. And if I take the kick out, there's no like pop or click happening on the Dig Attack 2 here. This is a track I was also working on getting ready to play a show. I was like, I should play some warehouse style techno at some of the shows that I have coming up, because they're fun. They're really fun. They get people really amped. Like, people just love warehouse techno type stuff. But anyhow, so I'm doing this rumble bass over here. You can see what's going to happen here. It's going to start the trigger in the middle of this waveform. I have my amplitude envelope, the reset turned off. This is the envelope I had to make to have it not sound all wonky. And I'm not getting any pops or clicks from this. But every other time that I've done a rumble bass on my Dig Attack 2, no matter where I put the start position, it clicks. In fact, almost every time that I do a resample, I'm having to fight with pops and clicks from start positions. And my amplitude envelope doesn't fix it every time. You know, it fixes it sometimes, but it just doesn't fix it every single time. This is one of the things that I'm desperately waiting for the Dig Attack 2 firmware update. If that would come out anytime soon, I would love that. I would love that so much. Because I want them to add some sort of zero crossing detection so I can just lock sounds to zero crossings. Like on the Octatrack, it's so nice. If we go into the sample, on the Octatrack, if I hold function and I move my trim here, every time you can see, like, not everybody knows this, but you can actually see all your waveforms in stereo on the Octatrack. And now if you look, you can see that little dot right there? That's a zero crossing. If I hold function and move this, it snaps to zero crossings. But take a look. That's a zero crossing on the right channel. No zero crossing on the left channel. Dig Attack 2 is stereo. What do you think is happening? This is happening on the Dig Attack 2, and we don't have zero crossing detection on Dig Attack 2. So we have two opportunities to create a non-zero crossing moment at the beginning of a sample start, making our speaker fly open instantaneously, which creates that pop, that click, that plosive sound from your sample. So it's just creating a voltage spike because we don't have a smooth exchange between no volume to volume or sound to sound. That's what zero crossings do for you. So on the Octatrack, you can see, you have to really zoom in to actually get a dual zero crossing. When you do the zero crossing, there we go, look. 2 zero crossings on both channels. It's not easy to do. It's like, it's a thing for the algorithm to detect. Maybe there's some sort of DSP wizard in the chat that like knows more about this and can comment on it more, but I know this to be true. You can have a zero crossing not on your left channel or not on your right channel, and you're going to hear it in your left ear or your right ear. It happens to me all the time. I have to hear. That's why I have it in the stereo view, so that I can zoom in really far and find zero crossings to my liking instead of the Octatracks. Because when the Octatrack does zero crossing detection, it zero cross detects the left channel only. So you're only ever getting a zero crossing on the left channel. Fortunately, that's usually enough, and that usually helps. But sometimes, if it doesn't, if you do a zero crossing detection here, you may want to go into the stereo view. So you hit yes and go to change view, and you can change to a stereo view as opposed to the left view, because it's usually defaults to the left channel view. But on your Digitect, you don't have that. You just have the one view, and you can't do zero crossing detection. However, on Digitect 1, when you did the slice grid, so like say we have a, well, we're not going to do that right now, but say we had the slice machine loaded and we did a slice grid on Digitect 1, which you can hit yes while on the source menu if you have a slice machine loaded. Wait, I do have one here somewhere. Not on this techno track, I do. I didn't do it on any of these. Never mind. I don't have it here. But anyway, on Digitect 1, you were able to, in a slice machine, hit yes, and it would say align to zero crossings. Because it was mono, it was very easy for Electron to implement that, I imagine, and copy, whatever the Octatrack was doing, bring it over here, right? But they haven't implemented that, so we're waiting for that to come in the new Digitect update. We're also waiting for it to fix a couple pitch-related bugs, which freak me out for playing live shows. Hoping that update comes before the month is over, before July is over, because I don't want to deal with it in a live setting. Hi all, I just bought a. Oh, let's jump back into the chat. I feel like we've covered mostly what I wanted to cover. I just wanted to have some discussion, a hangout while we work on some music stuff and talk about editing, arranging, and performing, and how do we go from these different moments of our music to the next moment. But let's answer some questions. Inspector Gadget kicks are pumping. I don't know what that means, but I like it. I really hope. Yes. Hi all, I just bought a Syntact and I can't record while in mute mode. On the Digitect 1, it works. Is this a bug? You can record in mute mode. It's not a bug, because it doesn't exist. That bug does not exist, because you can. I think what you're getting stuck on maybe is that maybe you're stuck in the mute mode, but you can record in the mute mode. Like, I'm in the mute mode, going to record. On the Syntact, you can hit record and play while you're in the mute mode. If you leave the mute mode and you have your recorder active, is that what you mean? So, okay. Sorry, you weren't even able to see it. I'm in the mute mode on the Syntact. You're hitting the record button and you're like, I can't record in the mute mode. Maybe that's what you mean? That's because the step sequencer, this is a step editor button. It's not a record button. Step edit button. So I have to leave the mute mode to go into my step editor because I can't occupy, we don't live in the fourth dimension. We can't look at two things at the same time. So like what you can record and play while in mute mode. Record plus play. That's record, in my opinion. That's really what record means, record plus play in mute mode. Hopefully that answers your question, because there is no bug that I'm aware of. Syntax is pretty bug-free. It's pretty good. It has a little bit of issues with its zero crossings, with its own synthesizers, its own amplifier stuff. It could use zero crossing detection, and that's a real thing in hardware, because I have a DVCA, a dual VCA, digital VCA from dual and digital from WMD that has zero crossing detection in it for synthesizers. My modular synthesizer has zero crossings in its amplifiers. So they could totally implement it in the Syntact. But regardless, to answer your question, that's not a bug. You got to be doing something wrong, I'm afraid. I hate telling people that, but that's usually the case. Have you experimented with the Octatrack's DJ EQ to remove and introduce new elements, or with the synths? Doesn't make a lot of sense because you can always introduce them on the synth itself. That's a really great question, UDO thing, and I have experimented with it because I did have a couple of templates that I released on my Patreon that used a DJ EQ in the template. I didn't like the way that it functioned. It's kind of like, so like the DJ EQ, the problem with like throwing an EQ on a master channel is, for one, it introduces a lot more opportunities. See, that was off. I bump stuff. It introduces a lot of opportunities for mistakes, in my opinion. On these boxes, that is. If you had an EQ on a DJ mixer, you're hyper aware of that. It's got gigantic knobs, and that's the function of the DJ mixer. It's like its main feature is that it has DJ EQ. And sometimes they have performance effects, but often they don't have any of that. They don't have performance effects. So a lot of the really good ones don't have anything but that. And just that DJ mixer and, pan and fading and stuff to introduce elements, bring them in. Anyway, that's DJ stuff. We're doing Octatrack, Ticketech, syntax stuff over here. Throwing a DJ EQ on there lives in your part on your Octatrack, and parts are affixed to patterns. So when you use the DJ EQ and you have your pattern change, you may not be looking at the same EQ anymore. So it doesn't work very well. The alternative to this is to not change patterns on your Octatrack. The alternative is to only send clock to your Octatrack. And I think about changing all the time to this, but I use so many beat repeat styled effects, and the beat repeats are the thing that get the most messed up when you send, like when there's MIDI jitter, and there is MIDI jitter. I don't know if you probably can't see it, but my BPM on my dig attack is jittering from 130 to 130.3 to 129.7. It's like moving around this half BPM jitter. It's kind of happening all the time. That's not affecting my music because my master clock is the Octatrack. But if it was, if I was using a like the delay in here is getting mildly adjusted, but the delay in the dig attack is like a tape delay emulation. So when you change the delay time in here, it just slightly offsets the pitch of the delay. And at such small increments as a tiny decimal point, you're not able to hear that. It's imperceptible to us, musically speaking. But if you're moving several like full BPMs, it would be very noticeable. When you lock a delay, use a frozen delay buffer on the Octatrack, and then you have those even mildly imperceptible BPM fluctuations going to your frozen delay buffer. That delay is using, like, its buffer is decided based on the delay time, and the BPM is synced to that. So that delay time changes, which means the size of the delay buffer changes. And as the delay buffer changes in real time, locked, it screeches. You hear this little, it's like this little scratch that starts to happen. Sometimes it's unnoticeable if you have a filter. Like a lot of the effects I have, or this one, they have filters post beat repeat. So like even if it did scratch a little bit, most likely some part of a low pass filter has taken off a lot of the really present high end anyway. So you wouldn't really notice it, especially if it's kind of mixed in with the same DNA as the rest of your music. I keep using that term DNA to explain this stuff because I think someone said it during one of our group meetups that we do, and now it's just a really great analogy to explaining things. But essentially, you wouldn't really notice it so much. Alex Boffy. Hey man, are you still using your modular rig much? You know what? I have it set up. I just reset it up again. And I'm so on the fence about buying an Atlantics. So I want to use it more. The problem is that if you're like me and you're doing music production all the time, and like you're also playing shows, like I teach on the Electron boxes, so like this experience that I have right here, this has to always be available to me because I'm doing
I do private lessons on this stuff 4 days a week, and several times a day. They have to be already set up. So for me to bring my modular over here, I want it to be something that I'm actively going to use. So I have another setup on the other side of my studio, and it has its own computer and the rigs over there. It's got its own. I got NS10Ms, which sucks, but that's what I'm using over there. But I still end up not using it much because I just know this system. I get this stuff done so quickly. So I'm still in the same stage that like so many other modular users are in, where they don't even know what to do with their modular rig. I used to have some idea of what I wanted to do with it, and that just kind of faded. I don't know what to do with it anymore. Is it an effects processor? Is it a synthesizer? Is it a groove box? I have no idea. It's just in the corner, just holding value and slowly losing value, I think. Don't recall that an update. Memory's bad. Ate a bunch of fungus last weekend. Well, that'll do it, I imagine. All right. Well, we've been hanging out for a while. We've discussed a lot on editing, arranging, and I showed you my process. Just to summarize, when I'm getting ready to play a show, I'm not playing for a month. I just wanted to like discuss this during the stream because I have felt enough energy around it to where I feel like I could talk about it today. I have to have the gumption to sit here and talk about something for an hour and a half straight. And editing and arrangement seemed like a good topic for me. I felt passionate enough about that. So the idea was we write all our music in one project. We fill the project to the brim with samples. We were able to share some of those sounds when we want, get some fresh ears. We go listen to it. We set it up. We arrange it to how we want it to be. Do we want to start off with the synthesizers and the drums in it at the same time? Do we want it to start off like this, like a banger? Do we want it to start off with just a synth? I don't know. That's a part of your arrangement experience. Then we got to go in and match all the volume so that our one track isn't too loud from another. And then we just keep going through this process. We try and perform it out. We use the Octatrack as a performance mixer. That's what I do. Some people might use an RMX 1000. Some people might use a Chaos Replay. Some people might use a DJ mixer. Some people might use their computer. Some people might use an analog heat, and some people might not use anything at all, just use the boxes themselves. I use this to transition and build up energy and release energy, as opposed to just doing it manually here. I have some like master styled effects, and that's what I do. So that's the topic of the stream. I do want to mention this one more time before I let people go, that there are shows coming up, and one of them is tonight. Tonight is Modbang at the 4Bs here in Seattle. Opening us up is going to be Mike Koriza, and then Techfro, followed by CM Barth, and closing us out is Cynthiac, who's bringing a whole bunch of gear. It's kind of like he's bringing a big synth setup. So that should be cool. We got live visuals by Magic Eye and B. Alcaroth, or Ben Alcaroth. They do a great job with their live visuals. And then in August, so 2 months from now, at Substation, you can see myself play along with some other amazing artists. Danimal Cannon, Trash 80, creator of the M8, Azuria Sky, Balkan Bleeps, me, Mystic Panda, Sleep Eater, and Exciting Excellent is playing. And then there's another show in Portland. Like I said, I don't have the graphic pulled up right now. We'll do that in the next live stream. We'll bring up that one as opposed to Wavefest, or I'll try and fit them all on the screen if I can. So that's what's happening. Come on down to Modbang. Whoops. DistroKid didn't sponsor us today. Come on down to the Modbang event and hang out with me. I'll be hanging out there, listening to the music, eating a fish sandwich and something else. They have some good food there. It's pretty tasty. Come check it out. Live hardware, electronic music. No computers ever, completely free show. If you're interested in playing, you can email me at mod@modbang.com, and I'll get back to you and get you on a set list. Or get you on a bill. So if you're even out of town and you're going to be in Seattle, let me know, and we'll see if we can put you on there. The rule is
has to have percussion in the music, like no ambient for Modbang events. It's supposed to be kind of a dancey experience, and no laptops or desktop PCs, which would be so funny if somebody tried to do that. But no laptops or desktop PCs. Push 3s are allowed. I know that's like the closest thing to kind of cheating the rule, but they are allowed. They are hardware. They're a box that just makes music, and that's their only function. So they're a groove box as far as I'm concerned. My name's Matthew, aka EZBOT. If you enjoy these kind of streams, if you enjoy this kind of content that I'm creating here, and you want to support this channel, you could leave a nice comment or a like on this stream. You could also visit patreon.com/EZBOT and join the Patreon. And that is the biggest way to support the channel. And also the rewards there are things like weekly meetups with me and another group of people, my Octatrack Performance Templates, discounts on stuff at modbang.com, and you also know that you're supporting this YouTube channel where I'm actively pursuing these Electron boxes, the M8, sometimes Bitwig, live coding sometimes, and other instruments like the Paulian lineup, and seeing how we can use them in live settings, and trying to eke out every little ounce of goodness that we can from these boxes, and finding every little nook and cranny of tips and tricks. That's what we like to do here on the EZBOT channel. So if you're into that, patreon.com/EZBOT. Otherwise, I'll see you at the Modbang show tonight, 7 o'clock. Everybody, summer's here. It's nice and warm out. Go outside. Maybe it's too hot, actually. Who knows? But here, it feels good. So I'll see y'all on Friday, I think. Take it easy.